Hey everyone. Oh man, I'm getting up earlier and earlier. It's like my biological clock is changing. I used to be like either up really late or work overnight, stuff like that. So I thought, hey, again, I got plenty of time to do another video. So I've been just sharing out on my photo album and reflecting. I started out, my friend Rosie died. I started thinking, how did I get here in the first place? And a big part of that was, I made friends with Rosie in Denver, and it's because of the stuff we could talk about. And so, along with that, I'd had a type of supernatural experience I've been sharing. I did a separate playlist called the Jody Vision to talk more about the weird part of my life. So, don't want to talk about that as much, but I might just mention that. That's kind of how I bonded with Rosie and stayed in touch with her. And a big part of the reason I came to Montana was she's like the only person I could come to when I had this issue coming up, and how it became problematic in a lot of ways. But anyways, yeah, that first couple of years in Denver, like just quickly, I made a lot of important connections. Like before I even moved to Denver, I made friends with somebody at a concert, right? So David Mendigorn and his sisters. And so David ended up with Rosie's daughter, right? And then introduced me to Rosie, so we stayed in touch, and that's how I ended up here. So it's like I made that connection like right off the bat. When I think about it, it's really strange. And so, anyways, yeah, that's kind of like how everything kind of came full circle, and I'm in this very living room for that whole reason. Just met the right person. And so it could be a blessing in disguise, but at the moment I feel kind of lonely, and like when Rosie died I was kind of emotionally stirred up. But it's interesting, I met her within that first year, and then Master Tay, he'd come out a few times, and I actually got a chance to take Rosie and Howard to a book signing. So I think he was in Boulder, we had the school up at Boulder. So yeah, I was able to drag Rosie and Howard through that. So I don't know if they had a very good chance to talk. But actually, now that I know more about Howard, he was the first American Buddhist monk to run a Zen monastery at Tassajara. So I was able to introduce him to a Shaolin Grandmaster. I thought that's kind of special. Otherwise, they may not have been able to exchange that he had been the monk or not. I'm not sure. I can't remember. So, anyways, trying to think where I'm at in my story, because I just watched the last video, so I kind of know that I'm just kind of recapping here where I made these super important connections. And let me see, and then Amy or David's sisters introduced me to a handful of people that kind of really helped break me into the whole Denver scene, and that's how I ended up meeting somebody that was going to the art school, finally connecting to my neighbor upstairs. So I met a lot of people that were college students that were, pot smokers and trippers. And so the building, had a handful of people that I got to know because we had that type of thing in common. And so there was also the, going to Shaolin, I made some important connections. Like I had mentioned, I had a good friend named Scott who introduced me to a couple of other people. And Chris Buffum is somebody I met at class. I think he got his black belt by the time I met him, and I think it just wasn't for him, is how he put it. But I ended up staying in touch with him over the years. And then so by 97, I think I got that job at Ticketmaster, and that's when I connected with Lynn and Seth. And let me see, there was this other cool dude, Phoenix. I think they were living over on Alaska Street or something. And so Jeremy was able to connect with them, and they started playing Dungeons and Dragons, and we started, hanging out and stuff like that. So it's almost like, kind of interesting how, like, making friends in Denver works. Like, you introduce people to each other and they like each other or they remember each other. It was almost like living on an island, because I had just moved to Colorado from the Florida Keys thinking it's going to be so different. I felt like I was living on an island, man, because, it's easy to make connections, and like if I introduce somebody to somebody else, they'll remember each other from some place and stuff like that. And So 97, my dad made a trip up to Colorado with my bird Captain. He wasn't getting along good with Captain, so we sent him over to my Uncle Chuck's house. My dad didn't have the patience to handle the bird because he gets kind of nippy, you know. And my dad was afraid that one of these days he's going to nip him and he's going to hurt him by accident, because he tends to just like, you know, if you're going to bite me, I'm just going to toss you on the floor, you know, which is understandable if you're not that interested in the bird. But at my Uncle Chuck's house, he was just kind of, you know, shut away under a blanket, because I don't know if he just wasn't getting along with my uncle and his birds, and he was in there squawking, so I threw a blanket over him. So I was really heartbroken, and I said, please bring my bird to me, you know. So anyways, maybe I should share those pictures first. Christmas of 97. Oh ho ho ho. Immy Jimmy was a place in Denver across from Wax Track, so I don't know, I just have a few funny little things I'm hanging on to. In case you're wondering, I'm gonna have to kind of make a nice spot to share this. So this is like the place I had set up for my birdie. See, there's Ernest P. Worrell in a corner. So now Captain is one of the most serious parrots you're ever gonna meet, you know. The Captain is probably older than I am. A little bit about Captain is it was my grandpa's bird, so my dad's father, Grandpa Smith, so his name was Donald. So my grandparents went to the Keys to retire, and you know, kind of like here in Montana, everyone's got to have a horse, or everyone's got to have a dog. Well, down in Florida, everyone's got to have a parrot. You know, my grandparents were just animal people. They just loved animals, and when the thing about my grandpa is he didn't just get an animal, he gets like a whole bunch of animals. Like, so like when my dad was growing up, like they didn't just have rabbits, they had like a whole I don't know, like a rabbit farm, and they didn't just have dogs, they had a kennel. So like my grandpa had not just fish, he had like a downstairs aquarium, like, you know. I think if I'm correct, okay, that my grandpa just. And then in Florida, he just had lots of, like, he had like 2 big cages full of pigeons, and he let them out during the day. And then he had a huge cage full of like it had a middle part. It was like round, it had a middle part full of like cockatiels. And I don't know if it was lovebirds in there together, but then the outside they had more birds. So there were definitely lovebirds, cockatiels, and all kinds of little birdies. And then he had another place, he had like parakeets, like little budgies, and then in this one cage, I loved going over there. You know, I think he had these green conures with red heads, so they each had like a big green parrot inside that was their bird. So my grandma had Lolita. They thought Lolita was a girl, and they tried to put him with Captain, and they're fighting later. So it took them a long time to try that, but somebody told them it was a female, and it wasn't. It was very similar in shape and size, but they had slightly different head colorings. And so that was my grandma's bird. So no one could really handle that bird. Like, it would probably bite the shit out of me. And she's like, don't touch my bird, you know. So I was kind of allowed to pet Captain. Like, he'd put his head down and you could pet him, and he'd fluff up his neck. And my grandparents really taught me how to respect the animals as much as possible. They didn't like seeing me chasing the ducks through the yard, so that's why I used to get in trouble. I'd get busted for chasing the ducks, because, you know, I just wanted to hold them and pet them. But my grandparents were trying to teach me to respect wildlife and respect the animals. And so my dad was probably, you know, in support of that, was, you know, he was busting me for chasing my ducks at home too. But, you know, the reason I wanted to have ducks, for example, is so I could hold it and pet it. So maybe having something like a parrot would be a more appropriate pet for me, because, you know, those birds are kept for, you know, in this case, so you could hold it and pet it, right? Now, Captain didn't like women, and when my grandma took my grandpa and got rid of him, he really hated her. So he just hated my grandma so much, because you know, when my grandpa died, the last time that bird saw my grandpa, she was the one taking him out in a wheelchair. So I think my grandma explained to us that she really thought the bird was spiteful towards her for getting rid of his daddy. Now, so I kind of became the only female that could handle it, though, because I really tried, and I took a lot of nips for it. Like, you know, he'd bite me in the hand or whatever. Like, I mean, it wasn't anything serious, you know, that didn't need more than a Band-Aid. So But I told him to quit biting me, and I told him to respect me. And so when my grandpa died, I started handling the bird more and more, and so I kept it at the house in Key West. So it really wasn't a long break. I think it probably only took about 1.5 years, I guess, to see that bird again. So my dad got it up there, and sadly, it got lost under circumstances I'll explain later. So I don't have them anymore. But yeah, getting the parrot changed everything. But yeah, when he was left alone, he was tooting and hollering, and my landlord told me the bird gets kind of noisy when I'm gone and stuff. So I was starting to get kind of uncomfortable. They weren't threatening me or anything, but it's like, it's not much I could do, and I just didn't really want to put a cover over Captain, because that's the whole reason I rescued him from my uncles. Yeah, because if he gets left alone, he starts tooting and hollering. He doesn't think nobody can hear him. All right, I don't know exactly what I kind of thumbed through these earlier, so I'm just going to try to be flexible. Now, my dad used to say he should be the mascot for Doritos. Like, one day we handed him a plain corn chip with no tasty stuff on it. He looked at it and he tossed it on the floor. Now, he likes those Doritos because he likes that tasty stuff on it, so there he is. Oh, I think he's on one foot there. See that? I had to kind of look around the camera here. He's on one foot there. All right, now there's me. I call it giving him a good mauling. Good maulings. That's how I taught him to quit biting me, really. It's kind of like, hey, I'm bigger than you. And, I kind of have a sloppy apartment, so I've always been that way. Right? And there he is. He's being kind of testy, like I'm trying to reach for his head. He's kind of reaching with his beak. Right? Oh, look, I think you can see my guitar and my keyboard there right next to my bong and everything. So you can imagine. There we are. Now we're getting along. I think I'm giving him something he likes. So yeah, having a parrot in Colorado wasn't the best idea. I always liked the idea of getting an undercut, like I think as soon as I saw that type of hairstyle. I've always wanted a mohawk, but I didn't do one until just a few years ago. That's the funny thing. I don't really like it, so I'm more of an undercut person. Now this is an idea how sloppy my place was getting. I had like a futon bed that turns into a chair. I kept that for a long time. I actually got that from my neighbor, Nicole, I'd mentioned in my last video. I don't know if she gave it to me or like I had to kick her down $20, but yeah, that's my that's what my hangout looked like. Now I think with my dad staying, I might have made myself a little bed over here on the beanbag. And then you can see the end of my weapons. So when you go to Shaolin Kung Fu, you end up with a lot of weapons, and people tend to just... That's how you know you're in a Shaolin house. Now, that's Loretta. She lived upstairs. She was a gay chick that... I can't remember her girlfriend's name, but that kid Tyler I showed in my last video, those two were close buddies. They're a couple gay people that like techno music, so they like to hang out with me because they knew they kind of treated me like I'm not cool enough, but they hung out with me anyways, so not really good friends. Now my dad came down for Christmas, and these are a couple of the presents, and so this is my altar. Just kidding. But that's where I had my stereo and my tape collection. See, I have less tapes now, so I don't think my tapes even fill up that whole container. But there, it looks like the thing was so full, I had them stacked on top, Yeah. And then, let's see here. Just another shot on my stereo. And, I think I have a little crystal ball right there. There we go. Now I unwrap my presents, and of course my dad always gives me music. It's like it's like having a leprechaun for a friend. Like if you know a leprechaun, they give you gold. My dad's an in-home DJ, so he always gives me music. Yeah, he's been like our in-home DJ at the end. No, just kidding. There's more. Now, so looking at that t-shirt, that's how I know I've been with Master Tay. So before my dad came to see me this Christmas, I've probably been to California. Let me show you who Master Tay is before I flip this. If I can show this to you, it's kind of... That's Master Tay. Let me see. That's 2007. And so, like, let me see here. Master Tay is almost Rosie's age, you know? I mean, he's like over 30 years older than I am, so I know those guys are about 2 years apart, but Master Tay, I went up to Master Tay. I just really wanted to talk to him in person because I felt like, you know, a big part of the reason I came to Shaolin is on one hand, like I was training with the guy that taught Kempo in Florida, Ron, and he kind of got me to understand that Shaolin is like the root of a lot of the Asian martial arts, like Taekwondo and karate and Kempo and all that stuff. It really all has roots in Shaolin, for one thing. The other important thing is I'm looking for psychic training as well. So that was something I could talk about with Ron was, you know, out of body, you know, being more psychically aware, and how the internal arts kind of enables that more and more. If you do your Qigong and stuff, it just comes to you automatically because all that stuff's really natural to us. It's more that it's being shut down and it needs to be opened up and developed, and maybe something that'll come to us more as we evolve. So super important to me at the time was I really wanted more psychic training, and I felt like Master Tay was a good person for it. I think some of the stuff he talked about, you know, gave me the indication he might be the right teacher for me. So I went to talk to him in person. And it seemed like it was real easy to, you know, I asked a place to write to him. I just wanted to be able to write directly to him. And he offered to exchange phone numbers. And I'm like, oh, cool. That's nice and easy, you know. Because, you know, in Taekwondo, I went up to their grandmaster, Hung Ung Lee, at a tournament. And I tried to shake his hand and say, hello, man. He was Splitsky. And later I was told by my instructors, like, well, Jody, you can't just walk up to a grandmaster and talk to them like that. Well, this master was cool. Like, I mean, he's like, here's my number. Give me your number. Next thing you know, I think he got me on the phone and invited me out for breakfast. And he even gave me a massage. I kind of had a feeling I knew where this was going. I think he was letting me know he was interested in doing it, but I wasn't really sure. I wasn't really going there to try to do it with Master Tay or anything, but when he invited me to California, I kind of figured that's probably going to be the case, and I didn't mind. At the time, I felt like I could trust them. You know, like I guess younger women tend to trust older guys, and so I'm one of those people in that instance where I felt like, you know, it's okay with me if that's what he's interested in. But he kind of led me on a little bit because I was saying, you know, I think I was getting into Bakwa, and I really wanted to be able to, you know, since I'm missing class, you know, do it with him and see it from him. And he sounded like he was interested in doing whatever I wanted, you know. And then when I got there, he didn't do no kung fu with me. I mean, he took me out and fed me. Like, he didn't let me spend my own money, that type of thing. But it seemed like all he really wanted to do was have sex with me, and I thought the reason he was interested in me is because he liked what I had to talk about and what I was interested in. And you know, and it seems like he has definitely experienced a lot of psychic awareness in his life and stuff. Like I was saying, he's one of the few people I've been able to talk to about my visionary state stuff, because he has also had a lot of visionary state stuff himself, and he's definitely experienced a lot of clairvoyance and other things like this. So that's where, you know, I thought we were kind of having that type of bond, kind of like me and Rosie or me and Ron had. But he's more of a celebrity, you know. He went to California to try to be to make a movie and be in the movies. So it's like I'm lucky I got to go with a good-looking Chinese guy like that. He was really well built and everything. He looks great in some of these pictures, you know. But you know, he's a neat guy. He's kind of cute for a Chinese, you know. So my sister's interracial attraction is with the African man. So my interracial attraction has been with Asian people. I think, you know, so maybe I just think, you know, maybe exotic. Like actually I had a boyfriend named Zhao Ping. I just wanted to be buddies, but he was trying to get me in bed one night, and he's just like, "Don't you think this exotic, Jody? Don't you think this exotic?" Yeah. Anyways, so I don't know. I mean, I'm just like, I guess I don't really care what race people are. If we have something to share and we enjoy each other's company, I really don't care what part of the planet you're from, or which planet or which part of the galaxy you're from, for that matter. You know, the more the merry. I love meeting people from all walks of life where we can actually enjoy each other's company and not be like, "Ooh, you're different, get out of here." So that to me is evolution in civilization and humanity, you know. I think being able to just be friends with somebody from different race, from a different religion, or to just be able to be friends with somebody that's a guy without having a sexual relationship even, I think that's an evolutionary step for us. And that's how I operate, you know. So I'm not looking for sex, but you know, Master Tay was interested in sex, and I thought, well, I could probably you know, they say it's kind of good for you to have sex. It's kind of good for your health to be able to have a good sex partner. And I just figured that's okay. You know, I can trust him. He's not, you know, I think he's a real friend. So, and not necessarily somebody I want to get married to either, you know, so it doesn't matter. I just thought, hey, you know, he's a cool guy, and he's open-minded. He's a little bit naughty. You know, that's not stuff grandmasters should do with their students, you know. So I can appreciate that a little bit. But the thing I don't like about it is, like, if that's all he wanted from me, then I don't appreciate it, because he kind of faked a friendship just to get some sex. And, you know, that's what teenage boys do, you know. So I'm a little bit disappointed, like, if our friendship has ended by any chance, because now Master Tay doesn't, like, I thought we kind of reconnected after I moved to Montana, but now he's not answering me, and I think I said something to offend him, but I'll get into that later. But I did end up really upset with Master Tay, because I started figuring out he's not really my friend. He's kind of faking it. He just wanted to have a sexual thing with me, and it just makes me mad. It's like, dude, I'm one of your black belts, you know? Don't just use me for sex and then throw me away like a piece of trash, you know? I was really mad at him, but anyways, I had been going through that, and I don't know if it carried on into 98 a bit. I think it did. Maybe I did go and see him another time, you know, because I think when I had that shirt on, it's 97. I might have made another trip out there, but I wanted to bring that up because seeing that shirt just, it kind of like, it's a part of the conversation I left out, and it's like, again, you know, Master Tay's a really interesting guy and everything, but I think he's a little bit of a covert narcissist, you know. Like, I think, you know, maybe he figures no one gives a fuck about me, whatever. Anyways, let me share the rest of these before this video goes too far, right? Otherwise it takes me like all day to, oh, my phone slipped. Yeah, here we go. I'm trying to make sure my finger's not in the picture, right? So that's a horse stance. My legs almost flat on top, and there's some of my weapons. See, now look at my house now. I don't have as many weapons in the corner, but that's a typical Shaolin kind of scenario. Seeing a staff or a... See, I had a Kwang even. You see that? That tip of that blade with the red fluffy thing? You betcha. And then, now, so I think we went and got Doug and took my dad up to Red Rocks. It must have been a dry Christmas. So hanging out at Red Rocks. That's how I know that haircut was around 97. So I had an undercut then. So you can see a little bit of snow. That's me and Doug now. He's the guy that was going to the art school. So he was kind of going more to be like a, you know, like a music producer. And he also wants to be a songwriter and stuff. And then we were doing some naughty things. We were up on Lookout Mountain right there, being naughty. Oh, and then I guess that's just I think that's up on Lookout Mountain as well. See, my dad's so cool and hip. How? Because he's got on his velvet underground shirt. You betcha. Me and Doug. Now, let me see here. All right, groovy. So that was a special time. Seeing my dad actually make the trip to Colorado with my birdie, my big soft birdie. Now, I'm kind of thinking. I have a few pictures here of a trip we took in early 98. Seems the weather started getting nice now. I had a good friend named Gregory Horner I met at the Shaolin Center. I'm kind of thinking I must have got him and Doug to go, if I can remember. We just drove up to Nebraska to someplace we could camp out, and it's kind of sandy right here. And that's the Volkswagen Bug. I think I had my dad help me purchase this vehicle. I saw it being advertised over at the Art Institute. And it seemed to be affordable enough. It's like makes me think of a Dr. Pepper colored red with like white trim on it. I was trying to do Tai Chi, but that looks terrible. So yeah, we went to some little lake. It wasn't really that pretty there. It was just cool to be able to stay outside because At whatever point we went, it must have been warm enough, so can't quite put my finger on it. But I know I had that Volkswagen Bug into the year 98. And that year, let me see. So 97, I worked at Ticketmaster. I ended up getting fired because I kept calling in too much. And it just had me coming in too early. I think I just couldn't handle getting there at 7 in the morning, so something like that. And then I ended up working over at Total Gas with Jeremy. So yeah, I think by 97, where my dad was up here for Christmas, I must have been working over at Total for a while. Because I remember making that trip to see Master Tay probably February the next year or something. And they were they let me go, but they seemed kind of pissed off that I wanted to be gone that long or whatever. But that's where I was working, you know. So when we worked at Total, it was graveyard shift. So yeah, Jeremy was one of the, I think he was like a shift lead or a night manager. And I wasn't getting enough sleep, you know, like everybody was waking me up all day. Kind of like when my dad came to town, I wasn't getting enough sleep. I ended up falling asleep in the back, and there was another employee there that, you know, told on me a few times. It was kind of funny, but I thought I'd bring that up because I didn't get fired specifically for falling asleep. I actually went to somebody's house, and it snowed so deep he didn't want to take me to Denver, so I was up in Coal Creek Canyon with somebody I met from the Shaolin Center. I can't remember. Oh, I think his name was Bernie. I don't know if it was Bernie or Bernard or some shit, but he had this cool place with a jacuzzi, and I remember going in the jacuzzi and it was snowing really thick and everything. He wanted to screw me so much, but I didn't want to do it with him. But, you know, I tried to stay friends over the Shaolin and everything else, but like, I think that friendship didn't last for very long because he was being too. I wasn't interested in having sex, you know, like and at the time I was kind of mad at Master Tay. I remember I was bitching about Master Tay at that point. So I think at that point I started realizing, you know, Master Tay's kind of a jerk. And I think at some point my friend Mindy, who I met from the Shaolin Center, she got me a job working for her boss's husband. He had this place that he made these really cool looking lampshades and lampposts. It was like made out of sticks and rocks, and we would like stain them and stuff. So it was like the trunk of the lamp was like made of sticks and like leaves and stuff. And then the top was like really neat paper. We'd make buttons out of like deer antlers. Like we'd slice them, or pieces of wood. We'd slice them and put little buttonholes. And we would lace it all together with like leather, and it just like really cool stuff. Like people with money like to buy this stuff, right? And so it was kind of cool. I mean, it was like maybe just above minimum wage. So I worked for him a little bit part-time. And then I got a job working over at Josh and John's Ice Cream. Like they made their ice cream right there in the shop. Like you walk in, on one side you see like where the churns are, and you walk in and you order from the counter. And that's where I got my best ice cream training. Like now I work at Sweet Peaks Ice Cream here in Kalispell, and I'm one of the few employees they have that really know how to take good care of the ice cream. And I haven't been in the position to really teach it to anyone because I come in and I work like until somebody comes in and relieves me, basically. So I don't really get to teach them, and the owner keeps telling me not to do that because she wants to do it herself, but then she doesn't really do it. Anyways, it drives me crazy because I got some of my best ice cream training. And I want to share. I have a tendency to want to share my knowledge, you know. Like I guess I have a teacher mentality. Like if you know something groovy, you should share it, especially when it's in need, you know. Like so, yeah, I learned a lot of good stuff. But then I was like, I don't know. I was like so upset about Master Tay. Like I just dropped out of everything. Like it just went on to like I just had like a total mental breakdown, and it wasn't just about him. I just felt like, you know, my whole life wasn't working out. Like, you know, thinking I was gonna make a living doing Shaolin Kung Fu was a bad idea, right? Like I can't see making a career with this school with this the Grandmaster being this way, you know, or treating me this way. Like I mean, he was nice to me and everything, but just, you know, like if he's gonna use his school as a place to pick up chicks, you know, like I'd rather just see him, you know, hire somebody, you know, like there's nothing wrong with paying for sex therapy if you need to relieve your sexual need, but you don't want to involve somebody that wants to have a personal friendship with you, especially one of your black belts. And I think I'm a pretty good student, you know, somebody worth keeping around, right? So So I was really upset, you know, and it's the stuff my friends were saying. Like, I think, you know, my friend Scott and Master Tay will tell you the same thing. It's probably just jealous. You know, probably because he wishes he could do it to me, you know, and same, you know, like, you know, why would you let him do it with you, you know, when I'm available? Like, you know, maybe a couple of my guy friends were kind of mad at me because they're just like, you know, Jody, you just let him take advantage of your friendship, you know, that's all. He's just taking advantage of you because you're naive. So it made me feel too vulnerable, you know, like it made me ashamed or embarrassed that I'm too vulnerable. I'm easily taken advantage of. Like, to be honest, in hindsight, like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with me, you know, having sex with somebody. But it's the whole social dynamic that you get with the whole, oh, you just let him take advantage of your friendship, and the whole, like, well, he's your grandmaster, you know, he shouldn't be getting you in bed like that. Or furthermore, I think I had somebody, he wasn't a close friend of mine, I talked to him about it. He's like, oh, you shouldn't talk about people that way. That's slander. Like, there's no way a real grandmaster would be interested in, you know, penetrating one of his students. It's like, you know, it's like the guy straight out called me a liar. Like, so that's not somebody I stayed friends with. But anyways, that was kind of like a super big part of my 97 into 98 experience was getting involved with Master Tay. And I was just really heartbroken over, like, you know, the fact that I felt like I let him trick me into doing something I probably wouldn't have done otherwise by seeming interested in me and interested in what I'm talking about and seeming like somebody who's going to be a friend. And I thought this is going to be great, you know, if I can have a good friendship with him. Like, you know, I thought to me, like, having sex with him is a good bonding experience. I'm a little different. Other people probably think it should have led up to a serious relationship or something. I don't mind that he didn't want a serious relationship, but what I do mind is being dishonest or faking his interest in the friendship at all. So I didn't want to spend too much time on Master Tay, but yeah, the friend here I had in this picture, Greg, I think he was like, you know, Jody, I really wanted to warn you, but I didn't want to seem like I was bad-mouthing Master Tay, because, like, before I did this, Greg used to live out in California, and he was going to those schools out there, and he noticed that Master Tay's always trying to pick up chicks, you know? And he had this friend named David. God, I can't think of his last name at the moment, but it was like a big Chinese dude that's, like, pretty much brought up American, you know, doesn't have Chinese accent or anything. And so David was his buddy. And so he was, like, with us the whole time, and he kind of kept acting like a dick to me, you know, and then Master Tay said, oh, well, he's just jealous, that's all, you know. Like, the guy's a fucking dick, you know. And we got to see my friend Janet, so the girl I made friends with in high school, Janet, lived in San Diego. So nice thing is Master Tay let me go down and see her. Like, I think he dropped me off down there for a couple days, and then I rode the train back to LA, the LA area. He was staying just like up in the northern part. I forget what that's called up there, like up by Northridge, Topanga Canyon. So it was kind of a nice treat, you know, like being able to go out and see California and everything. So I absolutely appreciate it. But if Master Tay was a real friend, me and him were in touch, you know, I definitely have nothing to regret. But I mean, you know, that's a big part of that year. And yeah, so anyways, I should end it pretty shortly here. I think it was an important point to bring up Master Tay and that whole thing, because I almost forgot about it as far as mentioning, because it kind of was something that hit really heavy. And I think I stayed in class for a little bit longer. I don't know if I made it through to 99 before I dropped out, and then I dropped out clear until 2005. So I ended up coming back and getting my second degree, actually, and then I think I only dropped out to move to Montana. Anyways, yeah, let me end it here, and my next video I'll talk a little bit about some other important things. 98 into 99 just seemed like life kind of get a little bit more exciting as we got closer to the year 2000. So until then, you guys have a good day or have a good night, depending on which time of day it is where you are.